During the day, he's the high and mighty boss, untouchable and aloof. But at night, after pulling an all-nighter at work, he bangs on my door in frustration. When are you breaking up with that loser boyfriend of yours? Is he richer than me? Better looking? More educated? Stop letting him steal my woman. How dare you like another man? What about our son? What about me? Abandoning your husband and child. One evening, on my way home, I noticed someone following me in the elevator. A scruffy man in slippers with a leash walked in with me. Terrified, I frantically texted my boyfriend, begging him to call me. Silence. No response. Meanwhile, the man finally spoke up softly. Don't worry, my husky doesn't bite. We both froze. Wait, where's my dog? He dashed out of the elevator, not even bothering with his slippers, leaving me laughing so hard I could hardly stand. As I opened my door while messaging my friend to vent about the situation, I spotted a furry bundle by my feet. My dog somehow got out. Without thinking, I grabbed the husky and pulled it inside. It seemed hyper, running straight into the bedroom as soon as I let go. While I was changing my shoes, I heard a loud asterisk doing asterisk from the kitchen, startling both me and the dog. The husky had run headfirst into the glass door. Then, out of the bedroom, another identical husky emerged, whining softly. All three of us were confused. Nana. I called my dog's name, and both huskies barked in perfect unison, like copy and paste. I immediately thought of the man who had lost his dog earlier. When he saw the two dogs, he looked just as baffled. Shin-chan. Both huskies barked again in sync. The man rolled up his sleeves and chuckled. Easy, my boy dog has only one testicle. Unfortunately, so does my Nana. Still, he wouldn't give up. My dog just had its nails trimmed. As it happens, so did my Nana. We spent hours trying to figure out which dog was which, but we couldn't tell them apart. The dogs were so tired they fell asleep on the floor, and we were equally exhausted, slumped on the ground, panting. Suddenly, I had an idea. Why don't we get a border collie to help us figure this out? The next day, we took both dogs to the vet. As the vet drew blood for testing, the two dogs howled and ran around the clinic, again like carbon copies of each other. The vet explained that huskies have small brains, and may be mimicking each other on purpose just to play with us. If the blood test didn't reveal anything, we'd have to bring in a dog trainer. While waiting for the results, the man asked if the dogs could stay at my place temporarily. He had been working late shifts, coming home around midnight, and he lost the dog while walking it last night. He was afraid his exhaustion might cause another mishap. I extended my hand. Then you'll need to cover half the food expenses. He paused, then handed me a card. This is my son's allowance. After thinking it over, he corrected himself. Actually, it's for both our sons' expenses. Realizing that didn't sound right either, he added, you're taking care of both dogs. You deserve it. Use this card for their expenses. A nurse, who had been eavesdropping on our entire conversation, walked past us with a knowing smile. Blushing, I pocketed the card. I'll send you a detailed expense list. I'll just use your card. While we were talking, a small poodle came running up, and started rubbing against the man's trousers. Now that the man had cleaned up, he looked pretty handsome, tall and lean, his shirt stretched over muscular shoulders, and his curly hair tied back in a neat ponytail, revealing his chiseled face. Nini, no jumping on people, please. Sorry, I wasn't watching her, Zachary Lamb. What a coincidence seeing you here. The owner of the poodle was a stunning woman, her voice dripping with sweetness. She walked over slowly, flipping her voluminous curls with a deliberate air, clearly staging this accidental encounter. So, the man's name is Zachary Lamb. The woman clung to his arm possessively and, with a territorial smile, asked, who's this young girl? Your niece. Zachary Lamb, irritated, pulled his arm away and said sternly, we've been separated for a long time. Please behave. I'm only 33, I'm not that old. Do I really look like I have a niece? Oh, I was just complimenting how young this little sister looks. I really envy her style. Something I could never pull off. Her condescension was so obvious, it practically reeked. Was she throwing shade at me? I wasn't about to let it slide. Let me introduce myself then. I'm not his niece. He might have two sons, and I'm the mother of one of them. The ex-girlfriend's face turned green with rage, and she stormed off, dragging her poodle behind her. Zachary gave me a thumbs up and transferred me $200 via Weshit. That was brilliant. Add 5 cans of dog food for the 2 sons. His profile picture was a Lego figurine. I was about to check it out when I noticed a new post in my feed. Guagua had posted a photo of herself holding a stray kitten, her clothes half-soaked, looking all pitiful. My boyfriend liked the post within seconds, commenting, "Be careful not to catch a cold." I opened our chat history. On Friday, I had asked him if he'd like a bento for lunch, saying I'd make it for him. On Saturday, I told him I thought someone was following me in the elevator, asking if he could call me because I was scared. This morning, I asked if his weekend went well, and mentioned that I'd bought him coffee for his first day back at work. He hadn't replied to any of them, yet here he was, liking Gogo's post within seconds. He probably didn't realize that Guagua and I had added each other on social media 4 years ago in our university's freshman group chat. We never spoke, but we've been in each other's friend lists ever since. I know her. She probably doesn't remember me. Seconds later, Guagua posted another update. In the photo, she mentioned wanting to eat crab stew. My boyfriend immediately responded, "I'll get it for you." She wanted concert tickets. He immediately offered to buy them. Caption: "You're the most compatible partner for me, but unfortunately, she's better at being in love." My boyfriend liked it instantly. So, every time he was absent with me, he was with her. "Wait, why are you crying?" "Crying in my passenger seat, you're the first," I whispered. "I raised a dog for over a year and it's still not loyal." I choked up halfway through, seething with anger, unable to find the right words to curse my boyfriend. Looking at the rearview mirror, I changed the subject. "I'm crying over the money. Your husky just tore up the backseat. How much do you think that'll cost to fix?" In the backseat, both dogs were wreaking havoc, and I could already see the frame of the expensive leather seats. Since the blood test didn't help distinguish the 2 dogs, Zachary didn't make me pay for the damage, and we ended up reducing their food portions by half. We agreed to find a trainer next week to figure things out. That night, the dogs whined nonstop because they were hungry, keeping me up all night. But honestly, I was mostly upset about how my own feelings had gone to waste. A guy like that, not worth a second more of my time. My boyfriend, Blake Morton, and I studied the same major. After graduating, we both received offers from the same big tech company, and we're even in the same department. What I once thought was a beautiful coincidence now just seems ridiculous. Davy, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you over the weekend. Were you okay Saturday night? I was worried about your safety. Blake caught up to me in the elevator, making small talk. I smiled but didn't reply. "What about the bento? What did you prepare? I've been looking forward to it." He ruffled my hair affectionately. I replied flatly, "Your favorite, lobster, asparagus, and portobello mushrooms." But the husky knocked it over. So, the dogs ate it. Blake froze for a moment, then laughed it off. Our department was extremely busy, and on our first day, we were each assigned projects to follow up on. Even though we finished work at 7, Blake showed up in the break room at 4, saying he had something to attend to at home and asked if I could finish his work for him. I couldn't help but laugh. The concert tickets he bought for Guagua were for tonight. Just as I was about to snap at him, I ran into Zachary in the break room getting coffee. "So, he works here too." I swallowed all my sarcastic remarks, my eyes reddening as I looked down without saying a word. Zachary walked past me and whispered, "Young couples, talk it out, don't fight." Blake laughed and slung his arm over my shoulder. "Just a little spat with my girlfriend. I'll smooth things over." Zachary seemed to remember something, smirking slightly as he left. Around 5, we met with the SVP of the China division. Turns out, it was Zachary. No wonder he never asked for my name the first time we met. He already knew who I was. Zachary wasn't happy with Blake's request for leave and, when he looked at me, said, almost deliberately, "You can go home. You must be exhausted from last night." Blake stared at the 2 of us, shocked, as if he had misheard. I caught on quickly and smiled. "Yeah, I'm pretty worn out from last night. I'll head home early." Blake's disbelief was palpable. Why was it okay for him to emotionally cheat with his ex? I had plenty of ways to mess with him. As I packed up to leave, the owner's group chat suddenly exploded with laughter. Someone posted a video of a runaway robot vacuum zooming around the neighborhood wearing a mini skirt. I was about to send a string of laughing emojis when I realized something wasn't right. That skirt looks familiar. Who let my vacuum out? There's no one else at home except the huskies. Looking up, I saw Zachary walking out of his office, glancing at me with a hint of urgency in his eyes. On his phone was a video from property management showing the two huskies scratching at his front door with my bra on their heads. The property management was pleading with him to come handle the situation. Zachary Lamb, are you heading out? But there's a project meeting tonight. I have something to take care of at home. I'll be back soon. Blake tried to stop me, but I pushed him aside without thinking. I have an urgent matter at home. Step aside. I can drive you. My car. Zachary glanced back at me. I'll give her a ride. You stay and finish your work. I bet Blake's face turned green with jealousy. On the way home, Blake bombarded me with messages. What's going on between you and Zachary Lamb? How does he know where you live? Are you living together? I smirked, leaving all his messages unread. Let him feel what it's like to be ignored. As soon as we entered the complex, I swiftly grabbed the rogue vacuum. Zachary chuckled. Nice skirt. Judging by your skills, I bet you've had plenty of practice training your huskies. Blushing, I muttered, I know how to tell the dogs apart now. My Nana knows how to open doors. Upstairs, the property manager offered some ham as a peace offering. The two huskies were calmly chewing on it outside, as if nothing had happened, except one of them still had my bra draped over its head. I practically jumped 3 feet in the air, charging at them as they darted down the hallway. Good thing Zachary's the only other person on our floor. Just as Zachary was bidding farewell to the property manager, the husky gave a vigorous shake, and my bra flew straight onto Zachary's head. For a moment, the world went silent. I burst into tears, utterly humiliated. Zachary, unfazed, calmly adjusted his tie and folded the bra neatly before handing it back to me with his left hand. With his right hand, he grabbed the dog's head and said, when the kid misbehaves, you just need to give him a good scolding. Then, without another word, he walked off with the dog. Just as I was about to answer Blake's frantic calls, Zachary's voice echoed in the background. Davy, come pick up your son. He's the one who did this. Blake panicked. What's going on? Are you living with Zachary Lamb? The other husky whimpered at my leg, sounding almost like a crying child. You even have a kid together? I don't have time to explain. I'm busy disciplining our son. That night, Guagua posted concert photos on her feed, captioned, it was amazing, but for the first time, you missed our secret, spending it with her. Blake, realizing he had missed the concert, frantically texted and called me non-stop. Only now did he realize he didn't even know my home address after a year of dating. All he could do was panic from afar. Zachary, confident he could finally distinguish between the dogs, said his Shin-chan knew exactly where the water bowl was as soon as he entered the house. The other dogs seemed confused. His penthouse was massive, compared to my tiny rental. It was easy to figure out which dog had been there before. I breathed a sigh of relief. This whole farce was about to end. But then the property management called. There's a confirmed case in the building, so we're in lockdown for 48 hours. And here I am, trapped in Zachary Lamb's apartment with the dogs, holding back tears. One of the huskies proudly shook its head, as if to say, I even prepared spare underwear for you, to help tell them apart. Zachary put a tag on his dog, Shin-chan, apologetically. I told him I was sorry for all the trouble, but he didn't seem to mind. After all, his place had 3 guest rooms, and he even said I didn't need to call him Zachary Lamb in private. He had looked over my resume, and thought I was clever, telling me that if I worked hard, I had a bright future. Hearing praise from the boss made me so happy. I held Nana's leash and fell asleep peacefully. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of flowing water. My precious little rascal was standing on the kitchen counter, biting through the water pipes, while Zachary's Shin-chan was dancing in the rain beside him. They were quietly enjoying themselves, without a single bark, grinning ear to ear. In that moment, my scalp tingled with rage, and all I could see was the flooded high-end flooring. Money, so much money gone. My job might be gone too. This is a disaster. Call maintenance and shut off the water. Zachary's face was expressionless, and his voice didn't reveal any emotion, but I could feel it. He was definitely on the verge of exploding, trying his hardest to stay calm. A while later, the maintenance lady knocked on the door. She was in full protective gear, looking extremely annoyed. She took one look at me, half soaked and full of apologies, and at Zachary, calmly wearing his pajamas, without a care in the world. As for the two huskies, nowhere to be found. With a cold snort, she said, "I'll make sure someone comes to fix it once the lockdown is over." When she got into the elevator, she passive-aggressively sent a voice message to the building's group chat. Reminder to all residents, during these special times, couples should take care of their health and avoid playing any dangerous games that might waste public resources. And just my luck, that message played out loud in front of Zachary. And just so you know, she added in another message, "I heard someone disciplining their kids upstairs tonight." Even after being together for years, some couples are still quite passionate. What? That place is for singles. I've lived here for 5 years and never saw a woman go in or out, but I counted the people earlier. There are definitely 2 people in that apartment. What's going on? I never imagined there'd be people still up at 3 a.m., gossiping away in the group chat. Silence descended upon us, and I felt so embarrassed I could have dug myself a hole with my toes. With Zachary watching, I hurriedly typed in the chat, "Zachary Lamb, I'll clear everything up right now and clean up the floor myself. Don't bother with them." Zachary took my phone, sending his own voice message instead. "The water pipe broke. Repairs will be arranged soon. As for anything else, stop making wild guesses." His deep, raspy voice had a bit of a rebellious edge to it. Running his hand through his hair, he told me to go back to sleep, and that he'd handle the rest. "All right, but please let me pay for the floor repairs. I've caused so much trouble. It's a 130,000 yuan floor. If you want to repair it, go ahead. Just transfer the money to my card." I froze. Zachary looked at me blankly, but his words were sharp as ever. "Otherwise, just go to bed. You're too young to be so talkative." I grabbed Nana's tail and made a run for it. Zachary was about to grab a mop, but halfway there, he suddenly stopped and muttered to himself, "Where's my leash? I forgot to walk the dog today." I stopped in my tracks and asked him, "What leash? We're under lockdown. How are you planning to walk the dog?" Zachary ignored me and continued searching for the leash. Then, under Shin Chan's eager gaze, he looped the leash around Nana's neck and headed towards the balcony. Both Shin Chan and I were dumbfounded. Zachary pointed to the ground below the balcony. 11 floors down. Go ahead, walk yourself. I'll pull you back up afterward." Nana's legs went weak. "It's the 11th floor. For crying out loud. Is he serious? Did he lose his mind from exhaustion? Wait, could it be?" I quickly pulled out my phone and checked our office app. Zachary's last login was 30 minutes ago. It's now 3:30 a.m. Has he been working until 3 a.m.? No wonder he was so out of it. He must really be out of his mind from overworking. Last time, he even lost his dog during a walk. "Zachary, how about I walk the dog? You should get some rest." Zachary slowly turned around, his eyes empty, his movements and expression robotic. He stared at me for a few seconds, then handed me the leash. "After the walk, grab some canned food from the second shelf on the left, salmon, egg yolk, and walnut. That's its favorite. There's an online meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow for a new project you'll be handling for the next 3 months. And one more thing." He turned back, still a bit dazed from working late, but his tongue was as sharp as ever. "You're too soft-hearted for your age. If you're unhappy with that garbage boyfriend of yours, just break up with him already. Why cry? It's pathetic." I was surprised that he even remembered such a minor detail. No wonder he had helped me play along and frustrate Blake Morton. The next day, Zachary transformed back into his elegant, polished boss persona, eloquently leading the online meeting. But who would have guessed that just last night, he was about to airlift a husky off the 11th floor. During a break in the video conference, Blake Morton assumed everyone had muted their mics and turned off their cameras, so he boldly minimized his presentation screen to reply to messages. What he didn't realize was that I was still in the meeting. He was arranging a trip to Yunnan with Guagua for the 11th of next month. Apparently, it was their 50-month anniversary. and he couldn't miss it. Whoa. As they chatted, Guagua sent him a rather seductive selfie, then quickly deleted it, claiming it was an accident. It made me laugh. Just then, Nana ran into the frame, barking loudly, scaring Blake into scrambling to minimize the window. I thought for a moment. Then, while Zachary was making coffee, I sneaked into his camera view, holding the dog. Nana barked again. Blake looked up, shocked. How are you in Zachary Lamb's camera? Aren't you in quarantine? I casually replied, oh, sorry, wrong camera. Do you have a question? Oh, and have fun on your trip with Guagua. Seems like a big occasion for you, too. Blake's face turned pale as he sat up straight, ready to explain. But I just kicked him out of the meeting using Zachary's account. By the time he managed to reconnect, the rest of the team had returned, and Blake sat there, looking like he had so much to say but couldn't. The fury of being cheated on was written all over his face. Zachary glanced at him coldly, interrupting the conversation to ask, do you have a question? His voice was sharp and authoritative, instantly filling the room with a commanding presence. Blake's face flushed with embarrassment as he stammered, no, I don't. After that day, Blake kept pestering me for my address. Even though we were out of lockdown, the company still required a 7-day home quarantine. Blake managed to get my address, saying he had bought my favorite cake and wanted to deliver it. I thought for a moment and knocked on Zachary's door. Since we had sorted out the dog confusion, we hadn't spoken much outside of work. I hesitated but finally said, I know how to make salmon, avocado, and walnut dishes too. Zachary paused, removing his Bluetooth earpiece, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked me up and down. Do you need a favor? I awkwardly scratched my head. That garbage boyfriend of mine is coming over to drop something off, and I was hoping you could help me show him up a little. Zachary gave me an amused look, then said, so you're bribing the dog to ask me for help? Gritting my teeth, I promised. I've been learning about pet training. I swear, however you train Blake, I'll train Shin-chan the same way, well behaved, and won't tear up the house. Zachary took Blake's location and, before leaving, gave me a cold reminder, break up sooner, and train the dog sooner too. From my balcony, I watched as Zachary met Blake at the gate. I'm not sure what they said, but Blake angrily smashed the cake on the ground. Through the high-definition camera on my phone, I could see his eyes turn red with rage, looking both furious and pathetic, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. I asked Zachary what he had said to him. I told him you don't eat cheap, low-quality cake, and that you don't like dating men who devalue themselves. I also asked him, is he richer than me? Better looking? More educated? He should stop trying to steal my woman. I stared at Zachary in shock, but he remained unfazed, calmly putting his Bluetooth earpiece back on as he pointed to the house. I've got meetings with overseas clients all night. I can't deal with this petty relationship drama. Satisfied? Now take the dog. I don't have time to walk it for the next few days. I mimed zipping my lips shut, grabbed Shin-chan's leash, and said, don't worry, boss, I'll keep quiet, train the dog well, and stay out of your way. As soon as I got home, Blake bombarded me with messages. He claimed he had always been sincere, treating me like a treasure, and that I had cheated on him. He insisted he and Guagua were just online friends, and that I was being paranoid and distrustful. He said we should take a break to cool off. Disgusted, I nearly threw up. Meanwhile, Guagua had posted photos of their tickets to Yunnan, captioned, life is always better with you by my side. I sent Blake a message, if you want an apology, fine. Let's go to Northeast China for a vacation over the 11th holiday. We can talk things out. After a long pause, Blake finally replied, baby, you just got out of quarantine. It's best not to leave the city for 14 days. Damn, I said I wouldn't call you, baby, anymore. I guess we really should take a break. His message almost made me gag. I booked a popular ski resort on the outskirts of the city for the holiday, and posted the tickets to my social media, hoping to piss him off. But on the first day at the resort, I ran into Blake and Guagua, cozy and inseparable. Blake's face turned pale as he instinctively pushed Guagua away. Kama Devi, what are you doing here? And you must be Kama Devi, Guagua chimed in sweetly. He talks about you all the time, says you're such a sweet girlfriend. He really loves you. She smirked. I also hear your boss likes you quite a bit, treats you especially well. You'll have to teach me your secret sometime. I shot her a cold smile, watching her put on her little performance. Then she linked arms with Blake, all confidence and charm. Sorry, but I'll be borrowing your boyfriend today. It was a last-minute change in plans. You won't mind, will you? I blinked innocently. Oh, feel free to take him. I don't care about cheap things. Blake was furious, shoving Guagua aside as he pointed at me. Don't think I don't know about you and Zachary Lamb. He's right over there, strapping on his snowboard. We haven't even broken up yet, and you're already on a date with him. Typical. He was trying to turn the tables on me, but I wasn't even mad. I just smiled at Guagua and said, I thought you two already had tickets to Yunnan. What made you change your plans? Could it be that you were worried we might run into each other at the ski resort? Blake, you're still as jealous as ever. How funny. Gogo's smile faltered as she looked pitifully at Blake. Didn't you say you'd rather go skiing than to Yunnan? Why? Blake stood there, holding his snowboard, lost for words. Davy. I heard Zachary's voice, and my heart leapt with joy. I immediately ran toward him. Coming. Did you miss me already? Halfway there, I stopped short. Zachary was surrounded by a group of people, all in their 30s or 40s. One of them was a female executive from our company, and the rest. I swallowed hard and cautiously walked over, calling out loudly, Zachary Lamb, here's a newcomer. Say hello. Zachary introduced me. The others greeted me politely, their smiles distant, before resuming their conversation. I tried to blend in, pretending to listen, but not leaving. The group gave me strange looks. I forced a laugh, trying to hide my awkwardness. I stood there, quietly waiting for Guagua and Blake to walk by with their skis. Only after they were far enough away did I say goodbye to Zachary and leave. Everyone, except Zachary, probably thought I was a weirdo. As they got on the ski lift, Zachary looked back at me thoughtfully. Soon after, Guagua and Blake also got on the lift. Guagua cheerfully called out to me, why did your boss leave you behind? Seems strange they all went without you, huh? But then again, it makes sense. You're not really part of their world. Maybe they just don't want you around. Oops, just guessing. Bye now. I bit my lip, feeling my eyes sting, and kept my head down. The truth was, I didn't know how to ski. I hadn't even bought a lift ticket. I just wanted to build snowmen and take pictures. Who knew everyone would go up the mountain? Now it's too late to buy a ticket. I'm like a disconnected player kicked out of the game. Frustrated, I bought an ice cream, sat by the snowfield, and started playing a mobile game, and lost match after match. By the time I put my phone down, it was dark, and I was in tears, wondering why I'd even come to the ski resort in the first place. Then I heard a familiar voice behind me, you're crying over this. Is it really worth it? I had no idea you were coming. I was here to meet friends and sign a contract. It wasn't convenient to bring you along. What's wrong? Did your boyfriend upset you again? Why haven't you dumped him yet? All right, get up. I've been looking for you. Want to ride the lift or ski? I rented the place out for an extra hour just for you. I looked at him in confusion. Then I noticed that the previously closed ski area was lit up again, and the lift started humming to life. Zachary Lamb walked toward me, holding 2 snowboards. The lights in his eyes shimmered, reflecting nothing but me. In that moment, I suddenly felt my heart race a little. I'm not playing. I don't know how to ski. I just came here to build snowmen. And I cried because I've been playing games all afternoon, losing every single time. It's frustrating. Zachary Lamb sighed, tossed aside the snowboards, and sat down next to me, pulling out his phone. All right, I only have 1 hour. If I duo with you, we can get through 2 matches. We work for a gaming company, and Zachary has a technical background, but I didn't expect him to be so good at this. He led me through the game, crushing the competition. Near the end of the match, without thinking, I blurted out, do you like me? Zachary paused for a moment, his voice calm as he replied, I don't date kids. Immediately, I snapped back, I don't want to date an old man either. As soon as the words left my mouth, the lights slowly dimmed, the hour was up. Then deal with your boyfriend sooner, so I don't have to keep getting involved in your little high school drama. Zachary dusted off the snow from his clothes and walked away without looking back. And just a reminder, whether as a friend, neighbor, or boss, I can help you get out of these situations. But if this drags on and blows up, either you go, or you both go. My department doesn't carry dead weight, and office romances won't do you, a newbie, any favors? After he left, I stood there thinking for a long time before messaging Blake Morton. Later that evening, the resort held an event, and I found Blake on the outdoor terrace of a fancy restaurant, holding a beautifully wrapped rose, and looking excited in his matching couple sweatshirt. I didn't beat around the bush. Let's break up. Don't contact me again. Blake looked taken aback at first, but quickly, a sneer formed on his face. Oh, I see. You've gotten plenty of benefits from serving Zachary Lamb, haven't you? You really want to break up? I warned him coldly, you know who's been cheating. While I'm still in a good mood, get lost, or neither of you will have it easy. Blake knew about my temper, and his mouth twitched slightly before he turned around. I've got nothing to hide. I'm not scared. Fine, let's break up. I got exactly what I wanted, a clean break from this trash of a boyfriend. Still, I cried. I wanted to go back a year, and slap myself for wasting my time and emotions on such a disgusting guy. How could someone be this gross? People were coming and going on the open-air terrace, and in the fancy restaurant, many people were staring at me as if I were some kind of fool. I wiped my tears and walked away, my head down. Back in the resort lobby, I saw Guagua happily taking pictures of her rose, while Blake, seeing me approach, raised his voice, saying to the person selling the roses, I'll take all of them for my girlfriend. The roses were part of a special hotel promotion, and the smiling staff member said, 188 yuan per rose, and we have 3,000 in stock. Please swipe your card over here, sir. I was about to walk by quickly, but after hearing that, I stopped. With a smile, I looked at Blake and said, you two are so in love. How sweet of you to spend so much on her. Blake's face turned beet red as he stammered in front of Guagua and the staff. Trembling, he reached for his pocket. Sorry, I didn't bring my card. I immediately cut him off. Oh, but you can pay electronically. You've got the money, right? The staff, used to seeing big spenders, immediately brought over a QR code scanner. Blake began sweating profusely. My phone's out of battery. Maybe another time. With that, he grabbed Gogo's hand and fled into the elevator. I was absolutely thrilled. To my surprise, it turned out that Blake and Gogo's room was right next to mine. As I entered my room, I ran into them again. From down the hallway, I heard the sound of a cart approaching, and the smell of roses filled the air. The hotel staff were pulling carts loaded with roses. Guagua squealed in excitement. Little bro, you really bought them for me. You're kinda handsome after all. Big sis loves it. Guagua laughed as she ran towards the flowers, but was politely stopped by the staff. Instead, they delivered all the roses to my room. These are for Miss Davy, the staff said, and Mr. Zachary Lamb asked us to pass along a special message to you. Are you available? I smiled. Of course. My friends are here too, so they can hear it with me. Blake's face turned ashen, and Guagua, mortified, slammed the door to their room. A few staff members gathered around me, clapping in unison, and delivering the cheerful message, good riddance. Since my room was next to theirs, I hadn't realized before, but the walls weren't very soundproof. At 2 a.m., Zachary came into my room, looking irritated. Before he could finish speaking, we heard pounding on the door. Davy, seriously. Alone with him in the middle of the night. You're doing this on purpose, letting me hear. If you two want to get cozy, do it somewhere else. Don't discuss the rest of us. Blake Morton, yet again, had lost his mind. Zachary, who already had a short temper, when woken up, immediately marched over, and ripped the door open, cursing him out. You've got issues. I'm discussing business, and I don't need your permission. And you're asking what we're talking about. We're talking about bringing a new life into this world. What the hell do you know, you barely grown brat? I snuck a glance, and to my surprise, Blake was standing at the door, wiping tears from his eyes. Guagua was desperately trying to pull him back. Just before they left, Blake finally shot back at Zachary, "Don't look down on me. Men remain boys until the day they die." Zachary, with a cold expression, muttered to me, "I should fire both of you. You two are nothing but trouble. I'm innocent here. If anyone's to blame, it's Nana or maybe your Shin-chan." Because of the ski trip, I had sent both Huskies to a short-term dog training camp, shelling out a hefty 8,888 yuan for 3 days of intensive training. They promised at least a few tricks, like rolling over or shaking hands. Even if they learned nothing, I thought at least the fancy, aristocratic, dogs there might influence them. But it was only the first night, when I got a tearful call from the instructor, saying the two of them had escaped their kennels, and hooked up with a little female dog. Apparently, she was in heat, and would definitely get pregnant, meaning I'd have to take responsibility. To make matters worse, the Huskies had lost their tags, so no one could tell which one was the father. I thought this was serious, so I immediately informed Zachary. Zachary, clearly exhausted, and wanting to go back to bed, concluded, "What else can we do? If she's pregnant, she's pregnant. It's not like we're short on cash." Then, from the next room, we heard the sound of a glass shattering, followed by Blake Morton's pitiful sobs. Zachary grumbled, "What kind of dump is this place? It's like a dormitory. We can hear everything. It's driving me nuts." I whispered, "Then, boss, maybe you could upgrade my room. I only managed to get a standard one. It's obviously not as nice as your fancy suite." Zachary gave me a look and motion for me to follow him. Then he led me to his room. It was either sleep on the couch, or go back to the dormitory-style room. I pouted, "You bought me roses, but can't spare a bit more to upgrade your dear subordinate's room." "Fine, I'll just pay for the room change myself," Zachary scoffed. "The roses were to cheer you up because I saw you crying. And do you know why you had to fight for even a standard room? It's peak holiday season. There's no way you'll find a luxury suite available." I was at a loss for words. Zachary then brought out pillows and blankets from his bedroom. "So, you really saw me in that fancy restaurant? It was so dark and crowded. How did you spot me?" Zachary, as sharp-tongued as ever, replied, "Among all those glamorous women, you were the one crying your eyes out, scaring my business partners. Hard not to notice. All you do is cry. My niece is only 10, and she doesn't cry as much as you." I threw a pillow at him. "Is your mouth on rent or something? Do you need to criticize people all night to survive?" "I do. If I don't scold you, I'll suffocate." Zachary coldly walked back into his bedroom, slamming the door. Just as I was about to hurl another insult, my stomach suddenly twisted in pain. I scrambled into his bathroom, clutching my stomach. I must have eaten too much ice cream earlier, and sat in the snow for too long. I was chilled to the bone. That night, I spent hours going back and forth between the couch and the bathroom, until I was so weak and drained that I could barely walk. Eventually, I collapsed on the couch, wrapped in a thick blanket, and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, I awoke to the sound of a woman's voice. "There's definitely a woman in your room. I saw her. Long hair and all." "What do you mean she's a coworker? Would a normal coworker sleep in your bed? Take your phone over there and let me see. I want to know, what kind of woman's in your bed?" Suddenly, I snapped awake. Why was I in Zachary's bed? Why was the video call open? Had his mom seen me? In that moment, my mind filled with soap opera scenarios of parents catching secret lovers. As a good subordinate, I had to help my boss get out of this. I scrambled off the bed, grabbed the phone from the table, and positioned myself confidently on camera, speaking with composure. "Hello, Auntie. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Zachary's niece. We don't have that kind of relationship." The second I finished speaking, I immediately regretted it. What was I thinking? Auntie was stunned for a moment, then replied, "Oh, so you're my granddaughter." Just then, Zachary walked in with takeout in hand, looking like he was about to pass out from frustration. I quietly backed out of the frame, biting my fist in embarrassment. After ending the call, Zachary looked down at me, and sighed, "Thanks for introducing my mom to her new granddaughter. I'm sure my brother will be thrilled with this unexpected gift. Next time, don't say nonsense. If you're not feeling well, Go to the hospital. Last night, I thought there was a dead body on the couch, with blood trailing from the bathroom to the living room. I did a quick mental calculation, and my face turned crimson. I opened the takeout bag to find some digestive medicine, and a pack of sanitary pads. I hesitated before saying, "Boss, maybe I should just pay you back for all the trouble I've caused." Zachary turned to leave. "Start with 10,000. Transfer it to my card." I choked back a sob, curling up under the blanket. "Do you think I'm worth 10,000? You can take me instead. I usually keep my money in my kidneys." That could work. Wait, what? What did that mean? Was he joking? I wanted to ask more, but Zachary had already left the room. Not long after, the hotel staff came in with breakfast, apparently ordered by Zachary, and told me to enjoy it fully before I left. For a moment, I felt my brain short-circuiting again. He's such a nice guy. Could it really be that he doesn't like me? When I checked out, I was pale, walking slowly and feeling like I had no energy. That's when Blake ran into me. He immediately let go of Gogo's hand, and grabbed my arm tightly, asking, "Is he really that good? He doesn't even care about your health." I was so annoyed. Blake was like a piece of gum I couldn't shake off, so I snapped at him, "Get lost. I like it this way." "What's it got to do with you?" Blake looked as if he'd been dealt a heavy blow, staggering back a few steps with red-rimmed eyes, glaring at me. Then, on the first day back at work, Blake quietly slipped me a few boxes of some kind of herbal medicine and whispered, "He doesn't really love you. Please take better care of yourself. Don't make me suffer." The medicine boxes were wrinkled, with phrases like, "Boost energy," and, "Nourish women," like something you'd find in a bargain bin. It made me laugh. Blake squatted by my desk, speaking softly. "I've thought about this for a long time. Don't worry, I'm not a petty guy. I won't tell anyone about your relationship with him, but he's not a good man. You're pregnant, and he's still making you wear high heels to work. If it were me, I'd never let that happen." I immediately kicked off my heels. "Well then, why don't you go buy me a pair of flats from Gucci downstairs? Any pair will do." Blake's face twitched as he stood up, walking away without saying a word. I laughed until my sides hurt, then, struck by inspiration, I sent Zachary a message, hilarious. "Blake Morton says you're a bad man for making me wear high heels while pregnant." After thinking it over, I deleted it and replaced it with, "My feet hurt. High heels are hard to wear." Unexpectedly, Zachary replied almost immediately with 3 words, "I saw that." My heart skipped a beat, and I dropped my phone. Why was I acting all cutesy with my boss? That message was way too weird. What was I doing? Could it be that I liked him? What if he got mad and fired me? Is this considered harassment? Right before the end of the workday, Blake showed up with a pair of cheap slippers from JD.com, offering them to me. But the next second, Zachary called both of us into his office. On the floor were several pairs of Gucci flats for me to choose from. Clearly, he was doing this on purpose for Blake to see. Zachary signed some documents without looking up, saying to Blake, "See that? If you have time to think about nonsense, you should focus on work. Stop playing games with me over women." "How much were the slippers?" "Put it on the company account. I'll approve it." Blake's eyes turned red again as he pinched his thigh, holding back tears. "You'll regret being with her. She doesn't belong with you." I finished putting on the shoes and deliberately bumped his shoulder. "If you don't like it, feel free to quit. Stop wasting my time on the way to my prenatal checkup." Zachary blinked in surprise, then nodded with a sigh. "Yeah, prenatal checkup. Today is the day we had agreed to take our daughter-in-law for a checkup." After waiting an entire week, the hospital finally gave us the verdict: the little female dog is pregnant. The father? No one knows. The dogs at the aristocratic training camp are all from wealthy and prestigious families. As the parents, we should approach this with a positive and sincere attitude to give a proper explanation to the female dog's owners. According to what we've heard, the female dog's owner returns to Shanghai today, so we're planning to visit them to apologize. On the way to the hospital, I kept pondering and finally asked Zachary Lamb, "Is this situation causing you any trouble? I keep messaging you and wasting your time." "MHM. What does MHM mean? Are you mad or not?" I took a deep breath and said, this can't go on forever. Blake Morton sticks to you like glue. If it doesn't work out, let's get rid of one. At a red light, Zachary Lamb glanced at me several times, his gaze calm but with a hint of coldness. Fire you. That could work. Seems like something you'd do. Wake up. Of course, I meant firing him. Why should I be the one to go? I've got a higher GPA than him, at school, better skills, and I'm quicker at getting things done. Obviously, he should be the one to go. Zachary Lamb parked the car, his lips curling into a barely noticeable smile. Not bad, you've made progress. What's that supposed to mean? Is he praising me or being sarcastic? I'm starting to find this guy more and more unpredictable. Not only does he have a sharp tongue, but he's also darkly cunning. The vet came out holding the female dog, followed by its owner, who was surrounded by a cloud of high-end perfume. I squinted to get a closer look. Well, what do you know? Isn't that Zachary Lamb's ex-girlfriend? So the pregnant poodle is hers. Wait a minute, wasn't her poodle a male? His ex-girlfriend leaned sweetly towards Zachary Lamb, pointing at the dog's nose with her finger. Zachary, I think this is fate. Your offspring has ended up in our home, it's meant to be, like we're destined to be a family. Now that it's already pregnant, you wouldn't think of shirking your responsibilities, would you? Zachary Lamb replied sternly, the vet Sholby told you, I'm here to discuss terminating this pregnancy. The two dogs are too different in size, it's not safe to take the risk. His ex-girlfriend pouted and insisted, Nini will be fine. She'll safely give birth to a son for the Lamb family. Zachary finally lost patience and glanced at me, while pushing his ex-girlfriend away with one hand. If I remember correctly, isn't your dog male? Is this really your dog? If it were before, I would have jumped in to help my boss out, but now, his ex is head to toe in luxury brands, wearing something that accentuates her curves, with long, wavy hair, looking like a movie star. Compared to her, I'm just a schoolgirl. How could I possibly interfere in their grown-up matters? His ex is at this level. There's no way he'd ever be interested in someone like me. I stayed silent. Zachary Lamb glanced at me several more times, his expression growing colder, his temper rising. Finally, in a tone that left no room for argument, he said, What are you standing there for? Lost your voice. Can't speak. What, you're ready to just hand your man over? My heart skipped a beat. After a brief hesitation, I rushed over and wrapped my arm around Zachary Lamb's. I lowered my head, didn't say anything, but gently pushed his ex-girlfriend away. Immediately, I heard Zachary's satisfied chuckle above me. Are you serious, Zachary? You guys have an age gap of over 10 years. You're just toying with her, right? I weakly retorted, it's only an 8-year difference. I don't mind that he's older. Zachary pinched my waist, causing me to tear up instantly, and yell, I like him. What's it to you? You've broken up, so why don't you back off? Zachary smiled and gently rubbed my waist. Good girl, I like you too. Even though I knew he was just putting on a show for his ex, my heart started racing, my ears burning red as they pressed lightly against his arm. Wait, you two, you're not joking, are you? How did you meet? How long have you been together? Did you? Zachary frowned and interrupted her, we're here to talk about the dogs. Why are you so focused on me? Isn't your dog supposed to be male? How did it end up pregnant? His ex was at a loss for words, tightening the leash a few times as her gaze wandered into the distance. Turns out, she had spent a fortune to buy this poodle in hopes of getting close to Zachary. As for her original male dog, she had long since tossed it aside. Straightening her posture, she declared, Doesn't matter how it got pregnant, this baby is yours, and you have to take responsibility. First, take it for a prenatal checkup. Then, a few days later, Blake Morton came to me mysteriously, and said, Zachary doesn't love you. He's taking another woman to a checkup. I heard it with my own ears. You've been deceived. I snorted and watched him put on his little act. Blake Morton handed me a bento box he'd made with care. You should eat more. Pregnant women need to stay happy. And what else did you hear? He eagerly picked up some food for me. The two of them are going for the checkup tonight. He's so sneaky, who knows how many women he's fooled. I pulled out my phone, and showed him a post from Gogo's social media, handing it to him. Aren't you two timing right now yourself? Gogo had posted a lonely selfie, hinting that she was home alone, and that her boyfriend was nowhere to be found. Blake's face darkened. How can you criticize others when you're no better? You've got the nerve to bring me lunch. I kicked him out and snapped a photo to send to Gogo. The dog's clinging to me. Come get him. After work, I suddenly asked Zachary, I heard you got someone pregnant. Zachary frowned deeply, nearly pushing his sunglasses off his nose. He unbuckled his seatbelt and reached out to touch my stomach. Nope, flat as can be. My face turned crimson, and I covered my stomach. Be serious. Blake Morton said he overheard you going to a checkup with another woman, so I had to ask. Zachary raised an eyebrow, a smile growing on his lips. Don't you know how I spend my time every day? Who am I supposedly going with to this checkup? You sound a little jealous. I'm not, I mumbled under my breath, sneaking a glance at him in the rearview mirror. His usually stern face was softened by a faint smile, and when our eyes met, his gaze was filled with a tender warmth that made my heart race. At that moment, I realized I liked him. How's the husky training going lately? They've been a lot quieter. I'm thinking of quitting. The smile on Zachary's face faded as he seriously asked, what's the reason? I looked out the window. My parents are overseas, and I had applied to study abroad before, but since I didn't hear back, I started working instead. Recently, my advisor reached out to me again. I want to go back to school. The car fell into silence as Zachary frowned briefly before asking, and I like you. It's irresponsible to keep working like this while feeling this way. I turned to face him, my expression serious, with all the sincerity I could muster. You heard me right. I like you. So, what do you feel about me? Do you want to date me? Zachary pulled the car over into an empty spot and gripped the steering wheel. After a while, he finally spoke. You're only 25. Right. You still have your studies ahead of you. I burst into tears and accused him. I don't mind that you're old, but now you're saying I'm too young for you. Is it because you only like curvy beauties? And you can't stand someone like me, a plain-looking girl? Fine. I don't care for old guys either. I'll find a younger, handsome guy to date, 8 of them, all younger than you. Before I could finish, Zachary Lamb cupped my face with one hand, and a soft kiss on my lips stopped all my words. How dare you? I've already given you my answer, haven't I? If I didn't like you, I wouldn't have done things that could be misunderstood. You're still just a student, always crying. Are you trying to latch onto me? You're in your 20s and already talking about marriage. Have you thought this through? I wiped my tears, unbuckled my seatbelt, and threw myself at him. He caught me in a firm embrace. I am latching onto you. I'll be your boss when I'm young, and when you're old, I'll inherit your pension. Where else can I find such a good deal? Zachary Lamb let out a muffled laugh and held me tighter. His unspoken words were swallowed up in a kiss full of affection, and everything around us fell silent. I already made up my mind. If you started dating someone else, I'd prepare a dowry for you. Since I couldn't win you over, I wouldn't let my girl suffer out there. I laughed until I started crying again, holding his wallet tightly. So, just give me the dowry now. Would you have never confessed if I hadn't asked? You said you wouldn't date a student. Zachary Lamb patiently wiped my tears away. I used to feel insecure, thinking I'd only hold you back. Is that enough of an admission? You want money? It's all in me. You can just take me instead. I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. I grabbed his hand and put it in my pocket. Taken. You're mine now. Later, I resigned from my job. Both my parents and Zachary Lamb thought the money didn't matter as much as focusing on my studies. Since it was a big company, the resignation process took about a month. On my last day, Sandra Church suddenly stormed into the office to cause a scene. Sandra, or Bobo, as she liked to be called, was known for acting like one of the guys with men. She printed out photos of me and Zachary Lamb, my chat logs with Blake Morton, and receipts of things Blake bought me. She started yelling from the front desk all the way to the office floor, accusing me of cheating on 2 men at once. She accused me of having an office affair with the boss. She accused me of getting pregnant to climb the corporate ladder. Blake Morton, on the verge of a breakdown, fled to the bathroom to hide. I had just finished all my work handovers and grabbed a bag of sunflower seeds. squatting down next to Sandra as she fumed. Don't get too cocky, Sandra yelled at me. Girls like you, these green tea bitches, should be fired and exposed online. Let the public judge you. I spat a seed shell onto her shoe. So Blake did nothing wrong. He wasn't cheating when he was with me or with you. He's just a perfect guy. Sandra's face changed, but she insisted. Of course he's a good guy. We truly love each other. You're just a shameless seductress. What? Am I blind? He's broke, weak, and skinny like a chicken. How is he better than my Zachary Lamb? Why would I give up a rich, handsome man for your garbage? Sandra, smug, pointed at me and said to the growing crowd, did you hear that? She admitted to seducing your boss. No wonder she got a big company offer and a high salary. It's because she slept her way to the top. My former colleagues immediately looked at me differently. I couldn't hold back and slapped Sandra hard, slamming her head into the elevator doors. She screamed in terror. People like you, spreading rumors, ruin the reputations of innocent girls. Show me the evidence. If you can't, kneel and apologize. The crowd of onlookers fell silent in shock. At some point, Zachary Lamb had appeared, calmly grabbing my wrist. All eyes were on us, some even recording on their phones. Frustrated, I shouted, stop staring. I've quit. It's not an office romance anymore. I earned this job fair and square. Zachary pulled me into his arms and, in his usual calm manner, explained, since Everyone's here, let me formally introduce her. She's my wife, and I was the one who pursued her. She resigned last month because she wants to focus on her studies. You can start calling her boss lady from now on. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Sandra's face drained of color. Blake Morton suddenly burst out of the bathroom, slapped Sandra hard, and shouted, stop embarrassing me. Can't you stop making a scene at my company? You're humiliating me. After his outburst, Blake collapsed into tears, leaving Sandra stunned. We were all shocked. This was probably the bravest moment of Blake's life. Just as I was about to stay and enjoy the drama, I got a call from the vet. The vet said, your dog's wife is bleeding heavily. You need to come right away. Should we save the mother or the puppies? Panicked, Zachary delayed his meeting, and we rushed to the animal hospital. At the surgery room door, Zachary's ex-girlfriend was sobbing, telling him, don't worry, save the puppies. It's the Lamb family bloodline. I'll make sure it survives. Annoyed, I snapped, it's a dog, not you. Why are you so dramatic? This litter shouldn't have happened in the first place. Think about how much the poor mother dog is suffering. The ex continued to cry, insisting she was just trying to save the Lamb family bloodline. She even kept buying the mother dog life-saving medication against the doctor's advice, driving the doctor to frustration. Zachary handed her a boiling hot cup of water from the dispenser. Drink this, shut your mouth, and stop talking nonsense. His ex turned pale with anger. Not long after, the surgery room doors opened, and the doctor shook his head regretfully. Both the mother and puppies were lost. The size difference between a husky and a poodle had made it a dangerous pregnancy. But since the ex was the owner, the vet had to follow her wishes. In the end, the dog had been pushed to her death. The ex's face turned ashen, and I was trembling with rage. Happy now. From this point on, we have nothing to do with you. Stop bothering my son and my man. With that, I grabbed Zachary's hand and stormed out. As we stepped outside the hospital, Zachary chuckled softly. So fierce. Are you always this feisty, little one? I stopped in my tracks and glared at him, my eyes still red from crying. That was a life. Should we have just let her ruin it? Zachary leaned down, ruffled my hair, and seeing no cars around, wrapped his arms around my waist and lifted me up, holding me close. I turned bright red, pretending to choke him. My mom stopped carrying me when I was 6. This is so embarrassing. Zachary's face was half hidden in the shadows, his long dark lashes lowered, and a faint smile tugged at his thin lips. I don't care. You're my little one. When a kid cries, of course, they need to be comforted. If you're really angry, we can neuter our sons when we get home. That way, they won't harm any more lady dogs. At that moment, our huskies, Nana and Shinzo, shivered simultaneously. I clapped my hands. What a brilliant idea. Since dogs hold grudges, Zachary and I figured we'd need someone to play the bad guy for the neutering. My parents and brother were all living abroad, so they couldn't come. Zachary's dad was on a business trip, so we arranged for his mom to take the huskies from us on Monday, knock them out, and send them to the hospital for the procedure. And so, my first meeting with his mom was rather rushed. Thinking back to the previous misunderstandings, I felt nervous. The moment I saw her, I bowed and said loudly, "Hello, Auntie, I'm not his niece." Auntie smiled, her lips twitching. She took Zachary's hand and asked in a serious tone, "Zachary, I like everything about this girl, but be honest with me, did you take advantage of her confusion to bring her home?" Embarrassed, I laughed and whispered, "Auntie, I'm still here. Should I leave so you can talk?" Auntie's toes were practically digging into the ground from awkwardness, and she didn't know what to say. Before leaving, she gave me a jade bracelet from her wrist. "I like optimistic and genuine girls. Come visit us at home sometime." Later, Zachary secretly told me the bracelet was a family heirloom, meaning I'd practically passed the meeting with the parents' test. The dog's surgery went smoothly, and they were bursting with energy as the anesthesia wore off. They grabbed their leashes and raced home, but we lost them for a moment as they ran across someone's lawn, where a wedding was taking place. The bride was about to toss the bouquet when, in the chaos, our two huskies broke through the crowd and grabbed the bouquet, bringing it straight to me, tails wagging like helicopters as they circled around me. Zachary cleared his throat with a smile. "Looks like the dogs are urging you to get married, and it's quite the coincidence. I just happen to have a pair of rings in my pocket. Care to try them on?" The sudden proposal caught me off guard. Zachary was dressed in a white casual suit, and when he slowly opened the box, inside was a pair of delicate diamond rings. When I hesitated for a moment, Zachary made a move to close the box, and I immediately pounced, grabbing the rings. "You took them out, there's no taking them back now." "Of course, I'll wear them." Zachary smiled warmly, gently taking my hand and carefully sliding the ring onto my finger, bit by bit. "This is just an engagement ring. After you wear it, you'll still have plenty of chances to change your mind. You can change your mind while studying abroad, when you meet someone else, or even after meeting my parents if they're not satisfied. But once you wear it, other guys will know to stay far away from my girl." I lowered my eyes, looking at him, and suddenly smiled. I grabbed his hand and quickly slid the men's ring onto his finger. "Now that you're wearing my ring, you're not allowed to back out. I'm sticking with you for life, and in the future, your pension is mine to spend alone." Zachary's eyes were full of tender laughter, reflecting my face clearly. As fireworks lit up the sky, he slowly leaned in and kissed me. The story ends here. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay updated, with new stories added daily.